Her pack banished her as weak, until the Alpha King felt the bond he was never meant to find. Mist curled through the trees like restless spirits, and the howl of distant wolves echoed through the night. At the heart of this wilderness lay the Pack Village, a place both feared and revered by all who wandered near. But tonight the village was silent with anticipation, for a trial was about to take place. Leora stood at the edge of the stone circle, her ears pressed flat against her head. Her paws trembled in the frost-covered grass. Around her the pack gathered, their shadows stretching like black flames under the moonlight. The elders' faces were stern, their eyes cold as the winter wind. "You have failed, Leora," the elder Alpha's voice rang out, sharp as a sword. "Your senses are weak, your strength insufficient. You are no longer fit to remain with us." Whispers rippled through the crowd. Some called her weak. Others looked away, ashamed to even speak her name. Leora's chest ached, not from the cold but from the weight of their judgment. She had tried to train, to push herself beyond her limits, but it had never been enough. Her mother's eyes, normally warm, were now hard with disappointment. Even her father avoided her gaze. Leora realized with a painful clarity that the pack's decision was not just about her weakness. It was a sentence of exile, a declaration that she was no longer welcome. With a heavy heart, she lowered her head. "I understand," she whispered, barely audible. The elders nodded, their decision final. One of the older wolves stepped forward and handed her a cloak made of tattered leaves and animal fur. It was a symbolic gift, meant to help her survive the wilderness, though it could not shield her from the loneliness that awaited. Leora turned away from the pack circle, her paws crunching over the frost-laden ground. Every step felt like a betrayal, yet she walked on. She walked into the forest, leaving behind the only home she had ever known. The first night was the hardest. Shadows seemed to follow her, and every rustle of leaves sent her heart racing. She had to remind herself to breathe, to move, to survive. Hunger gnawed at her belly, and cold bit at her fur. She thought of the pack, of their laughter, of the warmth of the dens she would never return to. And yet, in the quiet of the forest, something else whispered to her, something ancient, hidden, and powerful. Days passed, and Leora learned to rely on instinct more than ever. She hunted small prey, drank from hidden streams, and slept beneath the thick canopy of trees. Slowly, her senses sharpened. She could hear the faintest heartbeat of the forest, smell the presence of distant creatures, and sense the approach of danger before it arrived. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the mountains and painted the sky with blood-red streaks, Leora stumbled upon ruins half swallowed by the forest. Stones carved with ancient symbols rose like forgotten sentinels. Moss covered every surface, and the air was thick with the scent of magic long forgotten. Her heart raced. Something told her these ruins held secrets, secrets that might explain the whispers she had felt since her exile began. She stepped inside cautiously. The shadows danced along the walls, and faint carvings seemed to shift when she looked away. She felt a presence, neither hostile nor friendly, as if the ruins themselves were alive and watching. For the first time since her banishment, Leora felt a spark of hope. Perhaps her weakness was not her fate. Perhaps she was meant for something greater, but the forest was never truly safe. That night, a creature emerged from the shadows, a beast born of corrupted magic. Its eyes glowed with fire, and its claws raked the earth with deadly intent. Leora froze, her instincts screaming at her to run, but she could not. She was cornered with nowhere to flee. The battle was instinctive. Leora leapt, dodged, and struck with precision born of desperation. She felt every muscle burn, every heartbeat pound in her chest. The creature snarled, lunged, and swiped, and Leora barely avoided its claws. She had no idea where the courage came from, but somehow she survived. By the time the first light of dawn touched the forest floor, the beast lay defeated, and Leora was trembling, her fur matted with sweat and blood, both hers and the creature's. She fell to her knees, gasping for breath. Her body ached, but there was a strange sense of triumph within her. For the first time she had faced true danger alone and lived. It was then that she felt it, a presence, powerful and commanding, moving through the forest with an awareness she had never known. Her ears pricked and her heart skipped a beat. Someone or something was coming. Through the mist he emerged. The Alpha King, Kalen, his golden eyes like twin suns fixed on her. His fur was dark as midnight, sleek and untamed, and his presence alone seemed to make the forest itself bow in respect. Leora felt the ground beneath her shift, as if the bond between them had already begun to pull, invisible yet undeniable. Kalen approached slowly, each step measured and deliberate. "You," he said, his voice low but carrying across the silent forest. "You are the one they cast aside." Leora straightened, trying to hide her fear. "I am weak," she admitted, her voice shaking. "I have nothing to offer." He studied her, his eyes narrowing, not with judgment but with curiosity. "Weak," he repeated. "There is a fire in you I have not felt in a long time, something forbidden." The air between them thrummed with tension. Leora could feel it in her chest, a strange pull that both frightened and fascinated her. She wanted to step back, to flee, but her legs refused. Kalen tilted his head, as if listening to a melody only he could hear. "You are lost, exiled by those who feared what they could not understand," he said. "But I feel a bond, one I was never meant to find." Leora's heart raced. She did not understand the words, but she felt their truth. This bond, whatever it was dangerous, unpredictable. And yet it was the first connection she had felt since her exile began. Kalen lowered his head until their noses almost touched. "Come with me," he whispered. "You do not belong here alone. Let me show you a path, one that may lead to your strength." For a moment Leora hesitated. She had been hurt, abandoned, and humiliated. She had believed the world was cruel and unforgiving. And yet, something in Kalen's gaze spoke of protection, of understanding, of power tempered by wisdom. With a cautious step, she moved closer. "And if I fail again?" she asked. "You will not," Kalen said firmly, a flicker of something unspoken passing through his eyes. "I will not let you fail." The wind swept through the forest, carrying the scent of ancient magic. The ruins behind Leora seemed to shimmer faintly, as if acknowledging the moment. She felt a strange warmth, a promise that her journey was only beginning. As they disappeared into the shadows together, the forest seemed to hold its breath. Something had awakened, something powerful, something forbidden. The bond had begun, and neither Leora nor Kalen could predict where it would lead. And somewhere in the distant mountains, a shadow stirred. The world had taken notice of the bond, and with notice came danger. The exile of the weak she-wolf had turned into a story that could shake the foundations of packs, kingdoms, and perhaps the very balance of the supernatural world itself. The journey ahead would be treacherous. Strength, courage, and trust would be tested. But for the first time, Leora did not feel weak. She felt alive and dangerously, wonderfully seen. The moon rose higher, casting silver light across the forest path. Kalen's golden eyes met hers once more. In that moment, Leora knew that her exile had not been an end, but a beginning. A beginning that would challenge her, change her, and perhaps, one day, make her more than anyone had ever imagined. And as the first hints of dawn painted the horizon in blood red and gold, the bond between them pulsed with a power neither fully understood. A power that would shape destinies, ignite passions, and awaken forces long thought buried in shadow. The fortress of the Alpha King rose from the cliffs like a shadow made of stone. Its walls, blackened with age and time, were etched with symbols of power, warning outsiders of the strength that dwelled within. Leora had never seen a place like it. Every hallway seemed alive, whispering secrets in the wind. The torches flickered with an almost sentient light, and the scent of magic, old and potent, filled the air. Kalen led her through the halls silently. Leora kept her head low, unsure whether to feel awe or fear. She had spent weeks surviving in the wilderness, fending for herself, and yet she had never faced anything like this, a fortress of power, ruled by a wolf who seemed to command the very air around him. "You may stay here," Kalen said, his voice echoing in the stone corridor. "But know this, my pack will not accept weakness. You will need to prove yourself in ways you cannot yet imagine." Leora's ears twitched nervously. "I am not strong," she admitted. "I am not like your warriors." Kalen's golden eyes softened, though only slightly. "Strength is not only in muscle," he said. "It is in heart, mind, and spirit. If you are willing to learn, I will help you find yours." For the first time since her exile, Leora felt a flicker of hope. She followed Kalen into a chamber lined with ancient books and relics. Strange symbols shimmered faintly on the walls and the air thrummed with energy. This was no ordinary fortress. This was a place of learning, of power, and perhaps of destiny. Kalen placed a paw on her shoulder. "The bond between us, it is forbidden. I was never meant to feel it, and you were never meant to awaken it. But it exists, and it cannot be ignored." Leora shivered. The bond, it was the same pull she had felt in the forest, the strange connection that made her heart race when Kalen's eyes met hers. She did not understand it, yet she could not deny it. "What is it?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. "A force older than any pack," Kalen said. "It chooses who it touches. It is dangerous and it cannot be ignored. If we resist it, it may break us. If we embrace it, it may make us stronger than we could imagine. But others will not understand. They will see it as a threat, a weakness, or a curse." Leora swallowed hard. "And what if I fail?" "You will not," Kalen replied firmly, his eyes unwavering. "I will not let you fail." The days that followed were both grueling and illuminating. Kalen trained her not just to fight, but to sense the world around her. He taught her to listen to the whispers of the wind, to feel the pulse of the earth beneath her paws, to anticipate danger before it arrived. Every lesson was a test, every movement a challenge. Leora grew stronger, but more importantly, she began to trust herself. Yet the bond between her and Kalen complicated everything. She could feel his emotions as if they were her own, his tension, his doubts, his silent longing. And Kalen could feel hers, her fears, her pain, her moments of courage that shone brightest in the darkest nights. One evening, as they trained near the cliffside under the blood-red light of the setting sun, Leora paused mid-strike, her paws trembling. I feel it," she admitted. "The bond, it is stronger than I thought." Kalen stopped, his stance rigid. "It is," he said quietly. "It grows with every moment we share. It is not just power, it is connection, understanding, something that cannot be broken easily. That is why it is forbidden. The pack will not accept it. Others may try to destroy it or destroy us along with it." Leora looked at him, fear and wonder swirling in her golden eyes. "Why me? Why me and not someone stronger?" Kalen's gaze softened, and for a moment he allowed a vulnerability he rarely showed. "Because you survived when they said you could not. Because you are brave when others would flee. Because your heart is not ordinary." The wind carried the scent of distant danger, and Leora's fur bristled. Kalen's senses flared, and he growled low in his throat. Shadows moved at the edges of the forest, creatures drawn to the bond, sensing its power. "We are not alone," he said. "They will come, and when they do, we must be ready." Over the next weeks, Leora trained harder than ever. Her senses sharpened, her instincts honed. She discovered abilities she had never known. She could sense danger before it arrived, predict movements in the shadows, and even influence the subtle flow of energy around her. Kalen guided her carefully, never pushing too far but always demanding more. Their bond grew with every passing day. In moments of quiet, they could share thoughts without speaking. A glance, a movement, a breath, and they understood each other completely. Leora began to see Kalen not just as a leader, but as a protector, a guide, and something more, something that stirred feelings she had never experienced. Yet with every step forward, fear lingered. Leora could sense the whispers of the pack, even from afar. They still saw her as weak, as an outsider, as someone unworthy of Kaelin's attention. And Kaelin himself battled with the expectations of his own pack, his own code. He was the Alpha King, a figure of power and law, yet he could not deny the pull he felt toward her. One night under the glow of the full moon, Kaelin and Leora stood on the cliff overlooking the forest. The wind whipped around them, carrying the scent of wildflowers and rain. Leora's fur bristled with anticipation, and Kaelin's eyes glowed with golden light. "I feel it more now," Leora whispered. "The bond, it is not just between us. It touches the forest, the air, the creatures around us. It is alive." Kaelin nodded. "It is, and with it comes responsibility. We cannot ignore what we feel, but we also cannot let others dictate what we are. That is the challenge we face." Before Leora could respond, a sudden rustle in the trees froze them both. Kaelin's ears twitched, his body tensing. Out of the shadows, a group of wolves appeared, outsiders, driven by fear and jealousy, drawn to the bond. Their eyes glowed with malice and their growls filled the night. "They have come," Kaelin said, his voice low but firm. "They will not understand. They will try to tear this bond apart. We must stand together." Leora felt her heart hammer in her chest. Fear, yes, but also a strange thrill. For the first time she felt the true power of the bond. It was not just connection, it was strength, courage, and unity. She could feel Kaelin's heartbeat in her own chest, his strength flowing into her, and she knew they could face anything together. The outsiders lunged, and Kaelin moved with lightning speed, blocking their attacks. Leora followed instinctively, her newfound abilities guiding her movements. They fought as one, their bond synchronizing every strike, every dodge, every leap. The outsiders faltered, sensing the power they could not comprehend. When the battle ended, silence fell over the forest. The outsiders had fled, leaving only the echoes of growls behind. Leora's paws trembled, but she stood tall, her eyes bright with awe and triumph. Kaelin lowered his head, his golden eyes meeting hers. "Do you see?" he asked. "The bond is more than we imagined. It is strength, courage, and heart all in one. Together we can face what no one else can." Leora nodded, her fur still damp with sweat. "I see it now," she said softly. "I am not weak, not when we are together." Kaelin's expression softened, a rare warmth touching his features. "Then we begin the next step," he said. "The pack will challenge us and the world may not understand what we have, but we will not falter. The bond chooses us and we must honor it." The wind swept through the cliffside, carrying the scent of rain and distant forests. The bond thrummed between them, a silent promise of trials and victories to come. Neither Leora nor Kaelin fully understood the depth of what they shared, but they knew one thing with certainty. Together, they were no longer vulnerable. As they returned to the fortress, shadows stirred in the distance. Whispers of fear, envy, and curiosity traveled through the forest. The bond between Leora and Kaelin had been felt far and wide, and not all who sensed it would welcome its power. Some would seek to destroy it. Some would seek to control it. And some would challenge the very Alpha King who had dared to claim it as his own. Leora and Kaelin had survived exile, darkness, and the shadows of the forest. But the world beyond the cliffs was far larger, far more dangerous, and far less forgiving. The bond had awakened, and with it, a story that would shake the foundations of the pack world itself. And in that moment, as the first light of dawn touched the fortress walls, Leora realized something she had never allowed herself to believe. She was no longer just the weak she-wolf cast aside. She was a force to be reckoned with, bound to an alpha whose strength matched the storm itself. Together they were unstoppable, but the trials ahead would test their courage, their hearts, and the very power of the bond that united them. The dawn broke over the cliffs, spilling golden light across the fortress of the Alpha King. Leora stood at the edge of the training ground, her fur still damp from the morning dew. She had grown stronger since arriving at Kaelin's fortress. her senses sharper, her reflexes quicker, her courage steady. But she knew that what lay ahead would test her in ways she could not yet imagine. Kalen approached silently, his golden eyes scanning the horizon as if he could sense every movement in the forest below. "The bond between us grows stronger," he said, his voice low. "But so does the world's awareness of it. Others feel it too, and not all will welcome it." Leora nodded, her tail flicking nervously. "I can feel them," she admitted. "Shadows moving in the forest, creatures, wolves I do not know." Kalen's expression darkened. "The bond is a beacon. It draws power, yes, but also danger. We are not alone. There are those who would destroy it before they understand it." For weeks, Leora trained under Kalen's guidance. She learned to channel her instincts, to read the subtle changes in the forest, to sense danger before it struck. Every day she became stronger, but she also became more aware of the pressure of the bond, how it intertwined their hearts, their thoughts, even their fears. One evening, Kalen led her to the ancient ruins she had discovered before. The stones were cold beneath her paws, and the carvings seemed to glow faintly under the moonlight. Leora's heart raced as she stepped inside. The air hummed with magic, and the whispers she had felt since her exile returned, louder and more urgent. "These ruins," she began. "They feel alive," Kalen nodded. "They hold memories of the past. Long ago, a prophecy was made about a she-wolf cast aside, one who would rise to unite the fractured packs and restore balance to the lands. I believe you are part of that prophecy." Leora's ears flattened in disbelief. "Me? How could I? I was weak. My pack, they said I had no strength." "The prophecy does not speak of physical strength alone," Kalen said gently. "It speaks of courage, heart, and the bond. Your exile was not the end. It was the beginning." The realization settled over Leora like a warm fire. Perhaps her banishment had been the first step toward something greater. Perhaps the whispers, the strange pull she had felt in the forest, were guiding her to this moment. But before she could dwell on it, the ruins trembled. A shadow flickered across the stones, and Leora's fur bristled. Kalen's body tensed, his ears swiveling. From the darkness, creatures emerged, wolves unlike any she had seen before, their eyes glowing with green fire. They moved with a predatory grace, their claws scraping against the stone floor. "They are drawn to the bond," Kalen said, his voice sharp. "Stay close to me. Do not falter." Leora's heart pounded as the creatures circled them. The bond thrummed between her and Kalen, a pulse of energy that strengthened their resolve. She felt his courage, his calm determination, and it bolstered her own. The battle began without warning. The creatures lunged, but Kalen moved with fluid precision, blocking their attacks and countering with blows that sent them sprawling. Leora followed instinctively, using the skills Kalen had taught her. Every strike, every dodge, every movement was guided by the bond. As they fought, Leora felt a strange surge of energy within her. The whispers of the ruins seemed to merge with her own heartbeat, guiding her actions, predicting the creature's moves. She moved as if the forest itself flowed through her, a force she had never known but could now command. Together, they drove the creatures back, their combined strength unmatched. The last of the wolves vanished into the shadows, leaving only silence behind. Leora's paws trembled and she fell to her knees, gasping for breath. Kalen lowered his head to meet hers. "Do you feel it?" he asked softly. "The bond, it is not just power. It is guidance, understanding, even protection. You are more than you realize." Leora looked at him, awe and gratitude shining in her eyes. I can feel it," she whispered. "It is like it knows me better than I know myself." Kalen's golden gaze softened, and for the first time he allowed a trace of vulnerability. "It chooses carefully," he said. "And it has chosen us, but we must be cautious. Others will see this as a threat. The prophecy, it is not yet complete. There are forces that will test us, that will try to break what we share." For days, they prepared for the challenges to come. Leora trained harder than ever, pushing herself to match Kaelin's strength and skill. The bond guided her, whispered to her in quiet moments, and taught her things she had never imagined. But the world beyond the fortress walls was restless. Whispers of jealousy, fear, and old rivalries began to circulate among Kaelin's council. Some of his own wolves questioned his judgment, uneasy about the she-wolf who had been cast aside by another pack, yet now walked beside their alpha as an equal. One night Leora could not sleep. She wandered to the cliffside, the wind ruffling her fur, the moonlight silvering the edges of the forest below. Kaelin found her there, silent and unhurried. "You are restless," he said, his voice gentle. "I feel watched," she admitted. "The bond is strong, but I sense eyes in the darkness. Others are aware of us, I think." Kaelin's expression darkened. "Yes, the bond is a beacon. It draws those who would challenge us or worse, destroy what we have. You are no longer weak, Leora, but you are not safe." Her paws dug into the grass. "Then I will not be weak. I will not let them hurt us or the bond." Kaelin studied her, his golden eyes glowing in the moonlight. "That is why you are part of the prophecy," he said. "Your courage, your heart, your strength of will, they are what make you worthy, but the trials ahead will be unlike anything you have faced." The wind shifted, carrying a scent of danger from the forest. Kaelin's ears twitched. "They are coming," he murmured. "And this time it will not be just shadows. It will be wolves, others who fear what we represent." Leora felt a mixture of fear and anticipation. The bond pulsed between them, stronger than ever, a rhythm that mirrored their own heartbeats. She felt Kaelin's determination, his caution, his unspoken desire to protect her, and it filled her with a courage she had never known. The following day, Kaelin called the council together. Leora stood beside him, her posture steady, her gaze unwavering. The council murmured, uneasy at her presence, but Kaelin did not falter. "She is not weak," he said, his voice carrying authority. "The bond she shares with me is not a threat, it is a gift, and those who do not understand it will have their eyes opened, one way or another." Whispers filled the chamber, but Leora held her ground. She could feel the bond steadying her, guiding her, giving her confidence she had never imagined possible. Later, Kaelin led her to a hidden chamber beneath the fortress, a place few had seen. The walls were lined with glowing crystals, pulsing softly with light, and in the center lay an ancient tome, its pages worn with age. "This is the prophecy," Kaelin said. "It speaks of a she-wolf cast aside, one who would rise to unite fractured packs, to heal wounds of the past, and to confront dangers older than memory. You may be that she-wolf." Leora's eyes widened as she traced the faded letters with her paw. I do not understand it all," she whispered, "but I feel something inside me awakening." "Yes," Kaelin said, "the bond, the prophecy, your courage, they are all connected, but the path will not be easy. Forces are gathering against us, testing our strength, our trust, and our hearts. We must be ready." That night, as they stood together on the cliffside, the forest alive with the hum of unseen creatures, Leora realized that the bond was no longer just a connection between them. It was a power, a guide, and a warning. The world beyond the fortress had noticed, and it would not wait long before testing them. And in the distance, beyond the trees and mountains, shadows moved. Wolves and creatures stirred, drawn by the power of the bond. Whispers of the prophecy traveled through the wind, carrying fear, envy, and curiosity. Leora and Kaelin were no longer alone, and the trials ahead would challenge not only their strength, but the very essence of what they were and what they could become together. As the moon rose high over the cliffs, casting silver light on the fortress, Leora felt a surge of determination. She was no longer the weak she-wolf cast aside. She was part of something greater, something that could change the world. And with Kaelin at her side, she was ready to face whatever darkness awaited. But the bond, powerful as it was, had yet to reveal its full strength. And the dangers that waited beyond the forest were cunning, relentless, and patient. The journey was far from over, and the shadow of the past, the prophecy, and the trials to come loomed closer than ever. The night was alive with tension. The fortress of the Alpha King stood tall against the blackened sky, its stone walls gleaming under the silver light of a full moon. Leora stood beside Kaelin on the cliff above the forest, her fur bristling in anticipation. The bond between them pulsed like a heartbeat, resonating in every nerve, every thought, and every emotion. Below, the forest was restless. Shadows shifted among the trees, and the faint glint of eyes reflected the moonlight. Rival packs had sensed the bond, felt the prophecy, and gathered to challenge what they did not understand. The whispers of fear and jealousy had become action, and soon they would test the Alpha King and the she-wolf who had been cast aside. Kaelin's golden eyes scanned the horizon, his muscles tense and ready. "They are coming," he said quietly, though his voice carried the weight of command. "We will not fight alone. The bond is stronger than any one warrior. Together, we are unstoppable." Leora nodded, feeling the bond surge with power. Her fear was there, yes, but it was tempered by determination. She had grown stronger, sharper, wiser. No longer the weak she-wolf her pack had banished. She was now a force to be reckoned with, and she would stand beside Kaelin, the Alpha King, against anything that threatened them. The first challengers emerged from the forest, a pack of wolves led by a rival Alpha, his eyes glowing with envy. They circled the fortress, snarling and snapping, testing the defenses. Leora felt the bond tremble as if warning her of the danger, and Kaelin's growl rolled like thunder across the cliffs. "Stay close," he commanded. "Do not falter." Leora's paws moved instinctively, her senses guiding her. The bond flowed between them, a tether stronger than any chain. She felt Kaelin's thoughts, his strategy, his patience, and it merged with her own instincts. Together, they became a single unit, anticipating attacks, countering movements, and striking with precision. The rival Alpha lunged, teeth bared, but Kaelin was faster. Leora leapt, dodging a swipe, and struck with the energy she had discovered in the ruins, her senses guiding her paw as if it were guided by the forest itself. The rival pack faltered, sensing the power they could not comprehend. "You are stronger than I imagined," Kaelin said, his voice carrying over the sounds of battle. "The bond is alive, Leora. Feel it, let it guide you." Leora closed her eyes for a moment, feeling the rhythm of the bond, the pulse of Kaelin's strength, and the whispers of the prophecy. When she opened her eyes, her movements were fluid, precise, almost as if she were dancing with the shadows themselves. The rival Alpha staggered, unable to predict her actions, and his pack began to retreat. But the battle was far from over. From the edges of the forest, a darker force emerged, a creature of shadow born of ancient curses, drawn by the bond's power. Its eyes burned with green fire, its claws scraping the earth with a deafening sound. Even Kaelin paused, his fur bristling, sensing the depth of the danger. "This is no ordinary foe," he said, his voice low. "The prophecy warned of this moment. We face what is older than memory itself." Leora's heart raced. Fear surged, but the bond steadied her. She felt Kaelin's courage, his resolve, his unwavering determination to protect her, and it gave her strength. She could sense the creature's movements, anticipate its strikes, and counter with skill she had never known she possessed. The battle raged across the cliffs and fortress grounds. Kaelin and Leora moved as one, their bond guiding every action. The shadow creature lunged, and Leora felt its intent before it even moved. She dodged, struck, and forced it back, her energy flowing like lightning through her paws. Kaelin roared, and the ground trembled beneath his strength. Together they forced the creature to retreat, back toward the forest from which it came. The bond pulsed between them, stronger with every heartbeat, every movement, every shared thought. When silence finally returned, Leora collapsed to her knees, exhausted but triumphant. Kaelin lowered his head beside hers, his golden eyes softening. "Do you feel it?" he asked. The bond it has guided us, it is not just strength, it is trust, courage, and heart. You are not weak, you never were. Tears pricked at Leora's eyes. I feel it now, she whispered. I can feel the prophecy, the bond, everything, and I understand why I was cast aside. It led me here to this moment. Kalen's ears twitched. And the trials are not over, but together we are ready. In the following days, the fortress recovered from the attack. Leora trained alongside Kalen's warriors, earning their respect with her courage and skill. The bond continued to grow, connecting them in ways beyond explanation. It was not only power, it was understanding, empathy, and shared destiny. Then came the moment that would test both their hearts and the prophecy itself. A rival pack, larger and more organized than any before, arrived at the cliffs. They demanded Kalen surrender the she-wolf, seeing her as a threat to the balance of power. Kalen stepped forward, his stance regal, unyielding. She is not a threat, he said firmly. She is part of the bond that guides this pack, and I will not allow her to be harmed. The rival Alpha snarled. You dare defy us. You risk your own pack, your own life for her. Yes, Kalen said, because she is worthy, and because the bond chooses who it will, not the fears of others. Leora stepped beside him, her heart racing but steady. I am not weak, she said, her voice clear and strong. And I will stand with the Alpha King against anyone who challenges the bond. The rival pack hesitated, sensing the power radiating from their unity. The bond between Leora and Kalen pulsed like a living force, visible to all who dared to look. Even the most stubborn wolves felt its weight, its command, its undeniable truth. The battle began, fierce and relentless. Leora and Kalen moved as one, their bond guiding every strike, every dodge, every counter. The rival pack faltered under their unity, unable to match the strength of the bond. Then, in the heart of the battlefield, the shadow creature returned, more powerful than before. It lunged at Leora, and Kalen moved in instinctively, intercepting the strike. But Leora, guided by the bond and the whispers of the prophecy, stepped forward. She faced the creature, not with fear but with courage. The bond flared between them, illuminating the battlefield with silver light. Leora reached deep within herself, drawing on the strength she had never known she possessed. Energy flowed from her paws, through the bond into Kalen, and together they forced the creature back. With a final, unified strike, they banished the shadow from the forest, its scream echoing into the night. Silence fell, broken only by the wind and the distant howl of wolves. Kalen lowered his head to Leora, his golden eyes filled with admiration and something deeper, something unspoken. You have grown beyond what I imagined, he said softly. The prophecy, it is alive in you. You are more than I ever thought possible. Leora's chest swelled with pride and relief. We did it together, she said, smiling despite the exhaustion. The rival Alpha and his pack retreated, leaving the fortress and its defenders in peace. Kalen's council, once skeptical, now bowed in respect, acknowledging Leora's courage and the power of the bond. The prophecy had been realized, but not fully. The bond, the trust, and the unity they represented were only beginning. As dawn broke over the cliffs, painting the sky with gold and crimson, Kalen and Leora stood together, their bond glowing between them like a living flame. Leora had been cast aside, exiled, and told she was weak, but through trials, courage, and the power of the bond, she had risen to stand beside the Alpha King, unbroken and unstoppable. Together, Kalen said, his voice low and steady, we are stronger than any threat. The bond chooses us, and we will honor it no matter what comes. Leora nodded, her golden eyes meeting his, and we will face it together. The wind swept through the cliffs, carrying whispers of the prophecy and the bond across the forests and mountains. Leora felt the pulse of the world, the magic in the ruins, and the connection she shared with Kalen. She was no longer weak. She was a she-wolf of courage, heart, and strength, bound to the Alpha King in a bond older than memory, stronger than fear, and more powerful than any force that might oppose them. And as they looked toward the horizon, the sun rising over the forests and distant mountains, they knew the journey was far from over. The world would continue to test them, challenge them, and push them to grow. But whatever trials awaited, they would face them together, their hearts and destinies forever intertwined. The prophecy had begun. The bond had awakened. And Leora, once cast aside as weak, had found her place, not only at Kalen's side, but at the center of a story that would echo through generations of wolves to come.